This story is titled, Mom and Dad Sold My Gaming Setup While I Was Away to Spend Money on My Golden Sister. So I packed my bags and never returned. Hey Reddit, my name's Jason, and I'm a 24-year-old from Phoenix. I've been into gaming and PC building since I could barely walk. It's not just some casual hobby for me, it's my entire life passion. For years, I dedicated myself to saving every penny I could get my hands on. I worked part-time jobs, did freelance graphic arts on the side, and even tucked away all my birthday money instead of spending it on immediate gratification. After years of discipline and dedication, I finally built my dream machine, a custom $3,800 gaming beast that was the culmination of countless hours of research, saving, and planning. This wasn't just some toy. I used it for both gaming and work. I did freelance video editing to make extra cash and was constantly learning new skills that I hoped would benefit my future career. Before I get deeper into what happened, I should tell you about my family dynamics. My parents are the type who think they know what's best for everyone, but their version of knowing best always seems to revolve around my sister Kate. She's 19 and the literal definition of princess syndrome. Everything in our household has to be about her. Designer clothes, expensive bags, whatever happens to be trending that month. My parents break their backs to give her everything she wants, even if it means stepping over me in the process. I grew up knowing Kate always came first in our family hierarchy. Whenever money got tight, I was the one who had to give up things. My mom always said the same tired lines. You're older, you can handle it better, or my personal favorite, you're a boy, you don't need as much. Over the years, I got used to this treatment and decided to focus on my own goals instead of fighting a losing battle. I didn't hate Kate. I just learned to stay in my lane and work hard for what I wanted. That's how things were, until that Thursday changed everything. It was a typical Thursday afternoon, and I had been out with my best friend Ryan, who's the guy I game with most frequently. We had been brainstorming strategies for an upcoming gaming tournament, confident that we would dominate the competition. I got home around 3 p.m., eager to hop on my PC and practice implementing some of the strategies we discussed. When I walked into my room, something immediately felt off. My desk was completely empty. My PC was gone. My monitor was gone. All my peripherals, gone. Everything had just vanished as if into thin air. My first thought was that we'd been robbed, but oddly, nothing else in the house seemed to have been touched. My heart started racing as I ran downstairs to find my parents. They were in the living room, casually sipping coffee like it was just another normal day. Hey, where's my computer? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm despite the panic rising inside me. Mom barely looked up from her magazine. Oh, we sold it, she said, as if she was telling me they'd moved a lamp or thrown out an old newspaper. My brain froze for a second, unable to process what I'd just heard. What do you mean you sold it? I asked, my voice getting louder and more desperate. Dad sighed as if I was being dramatic over nothing. Your sister needed new clothes for an event, he explained flatly. We didn't have money, so we sold the computer. It was just sitting there anyway. Just sitting there. Those 3 words echoed in my head. Just sitting there? I couldn't control my voice anymore as the reality of what they'd done hit me full force. That computer wasn't just sitting there, I shouted, feeling my face grow hot with anger. I worked years to build it. I use it for my freelance work. Mom immediately snapped back at me, her face hardening. Don't take that tone with us. We're your parents. We did what was best for the family. Kate has an important event, and you can always save up for another computer. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The casual dismissal of years of my hard work and dedication left me speechless for a moment. Save up for another one? I finally managed to say. Do you even understand how much time went into building that? What about my work? How am I supposed to meet deadlines? What's this event that's so much more important than my livelihood? Dad went into full authority mode then, waving me off like I was nothing more than an annoying child. Freelance work isn't a real job, he said dismissively. You spend more time gaming than working anyway. They'd always said that. No matter how many hours I put into my freelance projects, no matter how much I earned from them, in their eyes, I was just playing games. They didn't see, or maybe didn't want to see, that my PC wasn't just for games. It was how I earned my own money. It was how I built something for myself, independent of their constant favoritism toward Kate. It felt like getting punched in the gut. I stormed back to my room, unable to calm the rage and betrayal churning inside me. I immediately texted Ryan about what had happened. His response came quickly. Dude, that's insane! They didn't even ask you first? Nope, just sold it for Kate's stupid event. I replied. She's so spoiled. Ryan's next message made me wince. Man, you should have hidden the PC. Yeah, hindsight is 20/20ths. All I could think about were the years of work gone in an instant, and nobody in my family seemed to care at all. I sat in my empty room, staring at the blank desk where my battle station used to be. Everything I had worked for was just gone because Princess Kate needed new clothes. That night, I decided to confront Kate directly. I walked into her room where she was spinning in front of her mirror, admiring herself in what I assumed was one of her new dresses. Do you even know what Mom and Dad did to buy you all this stuff? I asked, leaning against her doorframe with my arms crossed. She barely glanced at me. What are you talking about? They sold my computer, my $3,800 gaming rig. Gone just so you could have your designer haul. Kate just shrugged, still admiring her reflection. So? It's just a computer. You can always build another one. I couldn't believe the complete indifference in her voice. It was like she was talking about a toy I could replace with a quick trip to the store, not something I'd sacrificed and saved for over years. That wasn't just a computer, Kate, I said, trying to make her understand the gravity of what had happened. It was years of saving, years of working, years of building. It was my livelihood. Not my problem, she said with a smug grin. It's not like I told them to sell it. She paused for a second, her tone shifting to sound defensive. Besides, it's not my fault they thought it was a good idea. They're the ones who actually sold it, not me. My blood was starting to boil. You mentioned it to them, didn't you? You knew exactly what they would do. You let it happen. Kate rolled her eyes as if I was being dramatic over nothing. Oh, please, don't act like I control Mom and Dad. If they sold your precious little computer, it's because they thought it was the best choice. That's on them, not me. I stood there staring at her, unable to believe how heartless she was being. After a moment, she added more fuel to the fire. Maybe if you weren't so obsessed with your little games, you'd understand what's actually important. I have an image to maintain. You're just sitting in your room playing video games all day. I wanted to say something I'd regret, so I walked out instead. Talking to Kate was pointless. She'd never had to work for anything in her life. Everything had been handed to her on a silver platter, and our parents were happy to keep it that way. The next few days were incredibly tense. My parents acted like nothing had happened while Kate paraded around in her new clothes. Every time I thought about how casually they had decided to sell something so important to me, my frustration grew deeper. Ryan kept checking on me, trying to keep me grounded as best he could. You gotta do something, man, he told me over text. Don't let them get away with this. He was right, of course. I couldn't just sit back and be their doormat anymore. But part of me wanted to just ignore it, to suck it up like I always had before. I didn't know what to do anymore. I felt completely lost, like everything I had built for myself had just crumbled away because Princess Kate needed to maintain her precious image. The days that followed were rough, to say the least. I could barely look at my mom and dad without my blood boiling. Every time Kate walked past me, flaunting her designer haul, it felt like she was rubbing it in my face. I tried to avoid all of them as much as possible, hiding in my room with my old laptop. The laptop was ancient and barely functioned properly. Trying to use it for my freelance work was like attempting to race a Ferrari with a bicycle, painfully slow and completely ineffective. It was such a far cry from my custom build that it was almost laughable. Every time it crashed, every missed deadline, every rendering failure just added to my growing frustration. Ryan had been my lifeline through this whole mess, keeping me from completely losing it. He'd call randomly just to check in, talk about new game updates, or show me random memes, anything to distract me from the situation at home. One night while I was venting to him again about how ridiculous my family was being, he dropped some truth on me. You know what? It's not personal, Sonny, he said, trying to help me make sense of it all. It's strictly business. Except they made it personal, and now they're treating it like business. He was right. This wasn't just some money thing. This was my family showing me exactly where I stood with them. Their priorities were crystal clear, and I wasn't anywhere near the top of the list. I realized I needed to do something. Not just about getting my PC back, but about making them see that they couldn't treat me like an afterthought. I started gathering evidence. Every receipt from the components I'd purchased, photos of the build process, screenshots of my freelance earnings, anything that could prove how important the PC was for my work. I even reached out to the buyer who was sympathetic to my situation but firm. No refunds unless I paid back the $1,200 my parents had sold it for. Here I was now, thinking about letting it go. It seemed like too much trouble, and the thought of confronting my parents again made me want to break something, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't sleep properly or focus on anything. Every time I saw my empty desk, it was a reminder of what they had done. How little they respected me, how little they cared about my work, my passion, my future. All of it sacrificed for Kate's wardrobe. Ryan kept telling me I shouldn't give up, but maybe it would be easier to just move on and let them win again, like they always did. A few weeks passed, and I was still torn between staying silent or confronting my family about what they'd done. Ryan kept telling me the same thing. If you don't stand up now, they'll keep doing it. They'll think they can take whatever they want, whenever it's convenient for them. He was right. This wasn't just about the PC anymore, it was about respect. I decided to confront them at dinner, which seemed like the best time to catch everyone together. I sat down at the table. Kate was scrolling through her phone, completely oblivious as usual, while Mom was talking about some neighborhood gossip. I cut her off mid-sentence. I want my money back, I said firmly, placing a folder of documents on the table. Dad raised an eyebrow. What money? The $1,200 you got from selling my PC, I replied, keeping my voice steady. I built that computer with my own money. Legally, it belongs to me. You had no right to sell it. Mom sighed dramatically, as if I was a 5-year-old having a tantrum over a toy. We've already been over this. Your sister needed help. We made a decision as a family. No, you made a decision for the family, I corrected her, my voice getting harder. Without asking me, that's theft, plain and simple. Dad leaned back in his chair, his face darkening. Watch your tone, boy. We're your parents. Everything in this house belongs to us. You live under our roof, so technically, that computer was ours. That's not how it works, I insisted, keeping my voice steady even though I wanted to scream. I pulled out the receipt and held it up. This says I paid for the parts with my own money. This is proof it was mine. I handed them the buyer's transaction copy. This proves you sold it for $1,200. You owe me. Mom gasped as if I'd just committed treason. How dare you accuse us of stealing? She exclaimed. We did this for Kate. She's your sister. Family is about sacrifice. Yeah, it seems like I'm the only one making sacrifices, I shot back, unable to hold back anymore. Kate gets everything handed to her, and I'm expected to just roll with it. Not anymore. Either you pay me back, or I'll take legal action. You wouldn't dare, Mom hissed, her eyes narrowing. I locked eyes with her. Try me. Kate, who had been silent until now, finally spoke up. Oh my God, are you seriously threatening Mom and Dad? Over a computer? You're pathetic. No, I glared at her. What's pathetic is you being fine with taking advantage of someone else's hard work without a second thought. You knew what they did, and you didn't care. She rolled her eyes dramatically. It's not my fault they decided to sell it. I didn't make them do anything. You mentioned it to them, I shot back. You knew exactly what you were doing. Kate gave me attitude, her voice dripping with false innocence. I only mentioned your computer because you're always complaining about work. Thought you'd appreciate the break. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Appreciate the break? Do you even hear yourself? Kate smirked, completely unfazed by my anger. Wow, you're making this my fault. You're always talking about being independent. Figured you wouldn't mind helping family. Isn't that what being independent is about? I could feel my fists clenching under the table. Helping out? You didn't need designer clothes. You just wanted them. There's a difference, she scoffed. Maybe you're just mad because I know how to get what I want. You're too busy sulking to figure it out. Don't blame me for being better at this than you. I was so close to slapping her at that point, but Dad slammed his hand on the table, making everyone jump. Enough, he shouted. We'll pay you back, but don't expect anything else from us. You're on your own from now on. I laughed bitterly. I've been on my own for years. The only difference now is I'm done letting you take advantage of me. The next day, they handed over the cash, $1,200 with faces full of anger. I took it without saying a word and immediately contacted the buyer again. We agreed that I could buy the PC back for the same price. Picking it up felt like getting a piece of my identity back. But I knew things wouldn't be the same. My parents and Kate wouldn't change. I couldn't keep living under a roof where I was treated like a second-class citizen. It was time to figure out my next move. Maybe it was time to move out, but I was worried it might cause more trouble. I still felt lost, but at least I got my PC back. After taking some time to think, I started brainstorming my escape plan. I needed to figure out how to get out of there. I knew moving wouldn't be easy. I didn't have huge savings, and rent in Phoenix is absolutely brutal. but I had my freelance work, and I was determined to make it work somehow. I called Ryan to brainstorm options. He'd been my anchor through this whole mess, and I knew he'd help me think through it. "Dude, you need to get out of there," he said immediately. "You can crash at my place if you need." "Thanks, man, but I need my own space," I replied. "I've been under their thumb for too long. I just need to figure out the money situation." Ryan went quiet for a moment before suggesting, "What if you double down on freelance? You're good at it. There's definitely demand. Could start streaming again, too." He wasn't wrong. I used to stream before life got in the way, but now with my PC back and a fire lit under my ass, it seemed like the perfect time to try again. I spent that night researching apartments, knowing my budget was tight. I looked at small studios and shared housing options. After hours of scrolling through listings, I found a tiny place a few miles away. It wasn't much to look at, a single room with a kitchenette and a bathroom that barely fit a person. But the price was right, and it was close enough to civilization that I wouldn't feel completely isolated. I messaged the landlord right away, and they agreed to show me the place the next day. Walking into that apartment hit different. It made everything feel real. The place was as basic as they come, but I wanted it badly. I signed the lease that same day and felt a weight lifting off my shoulders. The next challenge was packing without tipping off my family. I didn't want a dramatic exit, and I definitely didn't want to endure the guilt trip parade that would inevitably follow if they found out I was planning to leave. I started moving my stuff slowly, a box or two at a time, and stashed everything at Ryan's until I was ready for the final move. Meanwhile, I went hard on finding work. I updated my portfolio, contacted old clients, posted my services on forums, and hit up social media. The response was better than I expected. Within days, I had enough work lined up to cover my first month's rent. I tried avoiding my family as much as possible during this time. Kate didn't notice my strange behavior. She was too busy showing off her new designer bag on social media. My parents, though, seemed to sense something was up. They started dropping comments at dinner like, "You've been awfully quiet lately," or "You should let us know if you're planning anything big." I brushed them off with vague answers, but I could feel their eyes on me. This went on for days as I got closer to my move-out date. The tension kept building, like the calm before a storm. 2 nights before the move, I was packing the last of my gear when Mom knocked on my door. "Can we talk?" she asked, stepping inside before I could answer. "I don't really have anything to say," I replied, continuing to shuffle papers on my desk. "Just hear me out." She sat on the edge of my bed as if everything was normal. "You have to understand. We didn't sell your computer to hurt you. Kate mentioned it when we were trying to help her. She said you didn't use it much anymore, said it was worth good money. We thought maybe it was a good idea." I turned to face her, my jaw tightening. "So you're saying this was Kate's idea?" She sighed and almost looked guilty. "Not exactly, but she suggested it. We thought she made a valid point. You've always been so independent. We thought you'd understand." Her words made my stomach churn. Kate had planted the seed, and my parents had just run with it without a second thought. "You thought I'd understand?" My voice was getting sharp. "Understand that you sold something I worked years for because Kate wanted a new wardrobe?" Mom flinched but didn't respond. She just stood up and left, as if her half-assed excuse fixed everything. That's how Kate operated. She twisted things to get what she wanted, acted innocent, dropped hints here and there, and suddenly her ideas became my parents' plans. The morning of the move came quickly. I loaded up the last boxes and left a simple note on the kitchen counter. I kept it short. Just said I needed space and time to focus on myself. I didn't want a confrontation, knowing they'd try to guilt trip me if I tried explaining in person. Ryan met me at my new place and helped unload everything. I set up my PC in the corner of the room, and for the first time in years, I felt actually free. I went live on stream that night for the first time in months. My viewer count was small, but that didn't matter. I was in my own space, doing what I loved, and no one could take this from me anymore. I was feeling a bit weird about everything, but I was trying to push through those feelings. At least I had gotten out. At least I was standing up for myself. At least I wasn't letting them control me anymore. One day after moving out, I had freelance work to handle and a stream schedule to figure out. But a thought kept nagging at me. Would my parents even care that I left? Or would they just write it off as me being dramatic? I didn't want their validation. I'd given up on that long ago, but part of me still wondered if they'd even notice I was gone. I got my answer by mid-afternoon when Mom called. I didn't pick up, but she left a voicemail. "You could have at least told us you were leaving. Your father and I are very disappointed in how you handled this. Family is about sticking together, not running away. I deleted the voicemail before it finished playing. A few minutes later, Dad tried calling too. I ignored him as well. Then the text barrage started. Mom's first message read, "You've really hurt your mother." Then, "We've always done what we thought was best for you." Dad joined in. "You're being reckless." I put my phone on silent and tried focusing on my work, determined not to let their guilt trips derail me. That evening, while I was setting up my stream, I got a new message from Kate. "You left LOL. Guess you couldn't handle it. Anyway, Mom's freaking out. Might want to call her before she has a meltdown." It was such a typical Kate response, completely dismissive and self-centered. I didn't even bother replying. Instead, I focused on my stream, which was starting to attract a small but supportive group of viewers. These were people who actually appreciated my skills, who showed up just to hang out and watch me do what I love. I never had that kind of appreciation at home. The next few weeks were a mix of progress and frustration. My freelance gigs were picking up, and my streaming audience was growing slowly. But my parents wouldn't stop trying to reel me back in. The texts kept coming, alternating between guilt trips and straight-up anger. "You're turning your back on family," Mom wrote one day. "Kate's upset too. Don't you care how your actions affect us?" Kate being upset? That was rich. She barely acknowledged my existence at home unless she needed something from me. Now I was supposed to believe she cared? I ignored the texts, but they left a bitter taste in my mouth. Ryan came over one evening to hang out. "So have your parents calmed down yet?" he asked. "Nope, still texting like I owe them an explanation," I replied. Classic guilt play. "You think they'll ever let it go?" "Probably not," I admitted. "But I'm not going back, I can't. Living there wasn't healthy. They don't respect me. They never will." Ryan gave me a knowing look. "Yeah, but have you told them that?" His question made me pause. He had a point. I'd been ignoring them, but I hadn't confronted the root problem. Part of me didn't want to. I knew it wouldn't change anything. But maybe for my own peace of mind, I needed to say my piece. The next day, I sat down with my phone and took time finding the right words. Finally, I sent a message to my parents. "I've made my decision. I'm not coming back. This isn't about being selfish. It's about doing what's best for me. I've spent years feeling like my needs didn't matter. I can't keep living like that. I hope you'll respect my choice, but if not, I'll still be moving forward without you." I hit send and felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I wasn't expecting a positive response, and I didn't get one. Mom replied with a long, rambling message about how I was being ungrateful, about how Kate's happiness had always been a priority because she needed more support. Dad followed up with a message that was blunt as ever. "You'll regret this someday." Instead of feeling hurt or angry, I felt free. I didn't need to argue anymore. I didn't need to explain myself. Their words didn't have the same power over me that they once did. I threw myself into my work and streaming. One day, while scrolling through social media, I saw a post from Kate, a selfie with her new designer purse. The caption read, "So grateful for amazing parents who always prioritize what matters." I rolled my eyes and kept scrolling. I didn't need to engage with her fantasy world. It wasn't my problem anymore. A few days later, a family friend spotted me at a coffee shop. "Heard you moved out," they said, raising an eyebrow. "Your parents are having a tough time. They've been asking everyone for help." I frowned at this. "Help? What do you mean?" "They've overextended themselves buying things for Kate. I think they thought you'd still be there to pitch in." I shrugged and sipped my coffee. "That's unfortunate. And I meant it too. It was unfortunate for them. For me, I was doing great without them." After that conversation, I felt a strange sense of validation. My parents' finances were falling apart. Not something to be happy about, but it confirmed what I had known all along. They had prioritized Kate's wants over family stability for years, and now they were dealing with the consequences. Meanwhile, I was finally learning what real independence meant. I wasn't about to let their choices drag me back into their chaos. The guilt trip texts kept coming, though. Mom's messages were getting increasingly desperate. "We're struggling here. You've left us to deal with everything alone." Dad's favorite line became, "If you were a good son, you'd help family in time of need." Good son? That was rich coming from someone who never acknowledged my hard work, let alone respected it. Kate, meanwhile, stayed silent. She didn't reach out at all, which I had expected. She probably figured she'd let our parents do the heavy lifting and wait for me to cave in. Ryan came over again one day with a grin like he had news to share. "Guess who I ran into at the store today?" he asked. I already knew it was about my family. "Who?" "Your mom," he said, laughing. She cornered me by the frozen pizzas and went on a whole rant about how you abandoned them. She even said you're being influenced by bad company, which I'm assuming is me. I rolled my eyes. Of course she did. What did you say? I told her you're doing great, and maybe if they respected you more, you wouldn't have had to leave, Ryan said, smirking. She didn't take it well. I laughed, but inside it stung. Not because of what Mom had said. I was used to her dramatics by now, but as a reminder of how little my family understood me. They weren't upset because they missed me. They were upset because they had lost control. A few days later, I received a new text from Mom that was different from the others. Your sister's birthday is coming up. We'd like you to come home for dinner. It would mean a lot to her. I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to believe this was an olive branch, but I knew better. This wasn't about reconciliation. It was about appearances. They wanted to play happy family for a night and pretend everything was fine. I showed Ryan the text, and he shook his head. Don't do it, man. They're just going to pull you back into their drama. I know, I sighed heavily. But if I don't go, it just gives them more ammo to say I'm the bad guy. Who cares what they say? Ryan shot back. You're not living your life for them anymore. You don't owe them anything. He was right, and I knew that deep down. But saying no to family, even after everything they'd done, was harder than I wanted to admit. I did something I hadn't done since I moved out. I called Mom. When she picked up, her voice was dripping with fake warmth. Oh, honey, it's so good to hear from you. Hey, Mom, I kept my tone neutral. I got your text about Kate's birthday. Yes, we're having a nice dinner, just the family, she said quickly. Kate would love for you to be there. I don't think I can make it, I said firmly. I'm really busy with work right now, and honestly, I don't think it would be a good idea. There was a long pause before she responded. You're really going to let your sister down like this? After everything we've done for you? There it was, the guilt card, right on schedule. Mom, this isn't about Kate, I explained. It's about the fact that every time I try to have a relationship with you guys, it feels like I'm the only one putting in any effort. I'm not coming to dinner because I'm done pretending everything's fine when it's not. She didn't take it well, to say the least. Fine, she snapped. If you want to throw your family away, that's your choice. But don't come crying to us when you realize what you've lost. That was the last straw. Mom, I've spent my entire life trying to earn your approval, and it's never been enough. So no, I'm not throwing anything away. I'm just finally putting myself first. Goodbye. I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking, but it felt like cutting a rope that had been holding me back for years. I wasn't sure what would come next, but I knew I couldn't keep living in their shadow. After that call, I blocked both my parents' numbers. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was necessary. The constant texts and calls weren't helping anyone. I needed space to focus on my own life. Kate didn't even try reaching out, which made things easier, honestly. With the family drama finally gone, I threw myself completely into my work and streaming. One night during a stream, someone in the chat asked, "What made you start streaming?" I hesitated for a moment. I hadn't talked about my family situation publicly. It felt too personal. But then I realized it didn't matter anymore. I started streaming because it's my passion, I explained, but also because I wanted to prove to myself that I could build something on my own without anyone holding me back. The chat lit up with messages of support. Respect. You're an inspiration, dude. It felt good to have people appreciating what I was doing, not just for my gameplay, but for the story behind it. As weeks turned into months, I noticed something had changed within me. I wasn't angry anymore. I didn't want a relationship with my parents or Kate, but I didn't need to dwell on it either. Cutting ties had given me the peace I needed to move forward. For the first time in my life, I felt truly free. Ryan was hanging out at my place one day when he asked an important question. So, do you think they'll ever apologize? I shrugged while setting up my stream. Probably not. But honestly, I don't need them to. I'm finally living life on my own terms. That's enough for me. And it really was enough. I was building a life where hard work was valued and my passions were celebrated, not dismissed. Looking back at everything, from them selling my PC to me moving out and cutting contact, every step was necessary. Every confrontation had made me stronger. Sure, sometimes I still think about them and wonder how they're doing. But I don't miss the drama. I don't miss walking on eggshells. I don't miss being the family ATM. My stream is growing steadily, my freelance work is solid, and I've made new friends through gaming. Real ones who respect the grind and understand the passion. I remember that empty desk where my PC used to be. Now I have a whole setup built exactly how I want it. No one can take it away. No one's permission is needed. Sometimes the hardest part isn't leaving. It's realizing you should have left sooner. But better late than never, right? Kate still posts about her designer stuff, and my parents are probably still enabling her. Not my circus anymore. Not my monkeys. I'm focused on building my future one stream at a time, one project at a time. I'm finally at peace with the choices I've made. Walking away wasn't giving up. It was choosing myself for the first time in my life, and I would do it all again if I had to. Edit. Thank you all for the supportive comments. It's been therapeutic to share this story and see that I'm not alone in dealing with family favoritism. For those asking about my streaming channel, I'll DM you the details. Don't want to violate any self-promotion rules. To those suggesting I should have found better ways to communicate with my parents, I tried for years. Some family dynamics are just too toxic to fix from only one side. You can't force someone to respect you if they've decided you don't deserve respect. And yes, I'm doing much better now, both financially and mentally. Building something on your own terms is incredibly empowering, especially after being told your passions don't matter. Thanks again for all the kind words and awards. This community is amazing.